Bennett Kessler filed the following report. With an economic downturn in the past 5 years and state and federal government money troubles, senior citizen services have faced threats or actual cuts. Now, Eastern Sierra seniors hope services here will continue. Now, 2 of those services went before the Inyo County Board of Supervisors on Tuesday. One of the services has gone unfunded for now. Now, a contract for the Ombudsman program went to the supervisors for approval. An independent panel of 6 people had reviewed 2 applicants. The California Indian Legal Service Office scored the higher of the 2, and the current ombudsman protested. Pat West, a board member of the Ombudsman Advocacy Services, told the board that their group has provided services since 1990 and never had a bad assessment. She questioned the relevancy of the scoring to actual service. Now, the supervisors essentially said there was not any substantial reasons to go against the independent review panel. West indicated their group would appeal to the California Department of Aging. The Inyo County Board of Supervisors said it would be difficult for them to go against the independent panel without good reason. They voted unanimously to give the contract to California Indian Legal Services, which has provided senior services in the area for many years. Now, the senior legal program associated with California Indian Legal Services did not do so well. That program was the only bid to provide senior legal services to the Eastern Sierra, but County Counsel Randy Keller said that an employee of the service had violated the Conflict of Interest Code, which does not allow advisory board members to advocate for the funding of their own services. Now, the employee was a member of the board and had spoken about the needs of senior legal services in public comment. Now, because of that, the Inyo County Board of Supervisors voted to deny 4 years of funding to that organization. County Counsel Keller admitted that the employee had no intention of violating the law and has provided long-time valuable service. Health and Human Services Director Gene Turner also said that the group had done a great job. Now, it is unclear how the county will provide this service now, since there was no other respondent. Director Turner did say if any senior needs service, the county will provide it, but it's not clear how. Now, this service helped those considered senior citizens with Social Security problems, landlord issues, foreclosures, and many other difficult daily life issues. Well, as we reported earlier this week, over the weekend, a mother bear was killed in traffic in Mammoth Lakes. She left 2 cubs. The lives and fates of those animals made news again this week. Local bear experts say the cubs will die if not rescued. Now, a Fish and Game wildlife biologist has ruled that those cubs can survive and will not be rescued. Now, Mammoth Police Chief Dan Watson confirmed that Fish and Game wildlife biologist Tim Taylor and Warden Chad Elliott drove to Mammoth Lakes Monday afternoon to assess the cubs. Chief Watson said Taylor met with him, an officer, and Mammoth Wildlife Specialist Steve Searles, where the cubs were up in a tree. Chief Watson said Taylor studied the cubs and determined that they were over 30 pounds and, in his, quote, professional opinion, could survive the winter, end quote. Now, Chief Watson said it was Taylor's call. The chief said, quote, that doesn't mean I don't respect the opinion of Officer Luke Schwarzkopf and Steve Searles. Fish and Game makes the final decision. I hope it's the right one, end quote. And again, that was Mammoth Police Chief Dan Watson. Now, both Schwarzkopf and Searles, who dealt with the orphan cubs and hundreds of bears in Mammoth, stated that in their experience with bears in town, these 2 babies will not survive the winter. Both of these men had pointed to the fact that the cubs were still suckling from their mother when she died. Now, although Fish and Game policy indicates that after August 1st, cubs dependent on sows should be picked up and rescued, Taylor ruled that the cubs could survive. Now, asked about the suckling issue, Chief Dan Watson said he mentioned that to Taylor, who claimed the cubs were also eating natural foods. Chief Watson said, quote, it's their call. I appreciate the fact that a wildlife biologist evaluated them, end quote. Now, informed sources have said that Fish and Game relies on data from studies that say first-year cubs can survive the winter. It is believed the studies were not done in Mammoth Lakes or in the Tahoe area, where elevations of 8,500 feet, and severe winters. Now, Fish and Game Policy also discusses dealing with these issues on a case-by-case basis. And in this case, food is scarce, it's a drought, the cub's mother was lactating, and the orphaned cubs are small. Now, Cyril's had arranged for the cubs to go to Tahoe Bear Rescue, but due to the Fish and Game decision, that will not happen. While Sacramento Fish and Game has talked to Sierra Wave Media, they are not on scene, and local Fish and Game has refused to speak to the media. In fact, on scene the day of the bear cub incident, the warden refused to talk to the media on scene. Well, Bennett Kessler also filed this report. A reader of our website, sierrawave.net, said that while hiking up the Kearsarge Pass Trail, he noted that nearly every red fir and white fir had entire limbs of dead needles, the characteristic red color of bark beetle infestation. Now, does the Eastern Sierra have a bark beetle problem? Sierra Wave Media's Bennett Kessler checked with the Forest Service, and their response was inconclusive. Now, Scott Kusamoto of the Forest Service said, by way of Public Information Officer Nancy Upham, said that it is the time of year when even conifers begin shedding their no longer needed needles. He said the trees that our reader observed, quote, could possibly have been under attack from bark beetles if they did see some steaming of pitch or sap on the tree. Now, the report that Sierra Wave Media received said there was pitch and sap and seeming beetle exit holes on some of the trees. Now, Kusamoto said he and others might have to see for ourselves to determine. Now, that is all that was available on bark beetles in the Inyo National Forest. Now, nationwide, last week, a federal report was issued by the Forest Service to say that fewer trees are dying in the nation's forests and that the bark beetle damage in the West is slowing down. Now, that official report says that the number of dead trees on 750 million acres of public and private forests across America is on the decline for the second straight year, with most of the reduction seen in western states where bark beetles have infested millions of trees, according to the Forest Service report. Now, U.S. Forest Service Chief Tom Tidwell said, quote, native insects and diseases run in cycles, and right now we are grateful the trend is downward, end quote. Tidwell also said, quote, while the news is good, we are certain to continue to face challenges such as the effects of climate change and the introduction of invasive species, end quote. We'll be back with more news.